Very good morning to you. I'm Richard Kershaw. Let me welcome you to the Computer Channel's first broadcast, which comes live from the National Exhibition Centre here in Birmingham. From the 28th of June, regular Computer Channel programmes are going to be broadcast live during morning hours on BSB's Movie Channel. They will be available via receivers to subscribers. They'll contain news, reviews, industry analysis and training programmes, and we'll tell you more about that later. But I'm joined today by Clive, the channel's editor and regular presenter. Clive is someone widely known in the industry as the former editor of Which Computer magazine. We've taken the opportunity to bring you this first programme from the Which Computer show, which this year is combined for the first time with the Communications 90s show. In fact, I'm speaking to you from our specially built studio from within the exhibition hall itself. Well, with me are the organisers of the two shows which are combined here at the NEC, Terry Brandon of Communications 90 and Hugh Keeble, who's the show director of Which Computer. Hugh, let me ask you straight out, why have you combined the two shows for the first time this year?
Really, it's a reflection of the convergence of the communications market with the computer market, really within the IT market, IT sector. Really, we saw it as an opportunity to provide the visitor. There is an animal being bred within large corporates, the MIS director, who really has a responsibility for purchasing across both communications products and computer products. Really, he has an opportunity to come up here one day and see all of the products, latest innovations in the market.
Terry, what overlap is there now between the two shows and the two sides? I mean, is there a merging of interests or a blurring of lines between telecoms, datacoms and computing? Do you think, might it merge altogether one day?
I think it might. I think whether it does in the immediate future, we have to look very carefully at what happens over the next 4 days. Certainly in terms of exhibitors, we have something like a 30 or 40 company overlap between our two companies, yes.
Let me ask you both briefly what value you see, or added value, from this computer channel. And it's not taking audience away. As I see it, it's actually adding an audience.
Quite. Well, we'll have 100,000 people coming to this show from the UK and Europe, but not everyone can make it. And it's important that if there are any innovations, any new product launches, people know about them across Europe.
Terry?
Speaking for the Electronic Communications Exhibition, certainly this form of communication is most important to us and is going to be increasingly so in future.
Well, thank you both very much. The combined Which Computer Communications 90s show goes on, as I'm sure you'll know, through the rest of this week until Friday. Clive?
I'm joined by two experts who will give us their views of what they've seen so far here at the NEC. Ken Young, consultant editor of Communications magazine, and Chris Bidmead, technical editor of Which Computer magazine. Chris, you're a bit of an old hand at attending Which Computer shows, if you don't mind me saying so. What are the key technologies of the 90s that you've seen evidence here this morning?
Well, we're just moving into the 90s, so we have yet to see, but I suspect that there's a multimedia centre, which is multimedia computing is the idea of tying onto a computer a video camera and a tape recorder and driving the whole thing from the computer. That has some very interesting uses in training inside corporates, but I suspect it's not a key technology. I'm going to be looking particularly at networking, which is something that's just coming to maturity. And I'm also going to be looking with great interest at portable computing, which again, we've been watching portable computers get smaller and lighter through the 80s. And at last we're reaching a point where you can have a small, light and really usable portable computer.
Thank you, Chris. Ken, communications, flavour of the month. What's new at the Comms 90 show?
The main theme seems to be one of mobile communications this year. There's all sorts of products. Everyone seems to have some sort of mobile.
You brought a couple of examples with you this morning.
This is the Rabbit phone. It's the 4th telepoint service to be launched. And
what is a telepoint service?
Telepoint, you have to differentiate between the two. Telepoint is a one-way service only, so it's competing directly with the lightweight phones such as this cellular phone from Motorola, which is the lightest one on the market now.
What about ISDN, Integrated Services Digital Networks? Bit of a mouthful.
Yeah.
It's been going since '86. We're now beginning to see a few signs of it, perhaps.
Yeah, two years ago there was a lot of talk about ISDN, but not much in the way of products. You can walk around the show now, and you actually can see on a whole wide range of stands, British Telecom, Mercury, ICL, Philips, Ericsson, people like that, who are showing things like ISDN workstations, which allow voice and data, and sometimes video conferencing as well.
Ken, I wish you luck. I know you're about to whiz off and and do another quick round of the show. I mean, it's quite a large area to cover, so I'll let you get on with that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Clive.
Richard.
I don't think there can be anyone who hasn't been amazed by the sheer speed of developments in Eastern Europe and the Soviet Union. Of course, it's been the political changes which have caught most of the headlines, but they do have extremely far-reaching and distinctly commercial consequences. And nowhere is this more true than in the field of computing and IT. Now, previous barriers to trade look as if they're bound to come tumbling down, and inevitably there's going to be something of a scramble, and a competitive one, to take up the opportunities this will open up for Western IT companies. With me on Nick Applegarth, who's Eastern Bloc Business Manager for Case Communications, and Howard Fisher, Locomotive Software's Commercial Director, who's just back from the Soviet Union's first computer show held in Moscow. Tell me, Howard, do you see all over the place in the Soviet Union, do you see copies of software that you know and say,
indeed.
How did that get there?
Yes, I've seen more pirated copies of expensive American software in the Soviet Union than I've seen copies in this country.
We heard earlier that in the UK and in the West, the two markets, the computing and communications market, are merging, and that's a natural thing. But certainly in the case of the Soviet Union, that is not the case. It's in its very early stages. The computer market itself is not fully developed. And in communications, we need something like that on which to build.
They have technology. They have a lot of people who are spending time learning technology and doing things in a very careful way, that's far better in some respects than we do in the West. And that's what we've got to seek out and bring over.
Computerization is certainly one of the things. And that's why we are present at your studio at the exhibition of which computer, and I will say more, which computer is more practical now for television use.
Do you think we'll ever see a computer channel in Moscow?
I think so. I don't exclude it. Let's suggest, and we will examine and agree upon.
Proper management of IT as a resource is vital. Now, one of the great gurus of this industry is Dr. Rob Wilmot, who played such a central role in the affairs of ICL as its chief executive. He's now chairman of OASIS, the Management Services Group, and he sits on the British Computer Society strategy panel. Dr. Wilmot, a phrase I associate with you, if it is 2 words, is hybrid manager. Now, I understand that to mean somebody who's not only literate but also skilled in IT. Which end of the spectrum do you grow them from? Do you tend to grow IT specialists who then learn other skills, or does it tend to be people who are skilled in engineering or in management or whatever it might be, and then acquire the IT skill from the other end?
They can come from either end, and I think if in the corporate entrepreneuring sense, I think actually it's been more typically line managers who've grasped IT skills, but as the British Computer Society, we're of course concerned that it's the members of the IT profession that actually acquire the skills to become tomorrow's hybrid.
Well, Dr. Wilmot, thank you, and thank you for joining us on this auspicious occasion.
Thanks a lot.
Portable computers are now smaller, lighter, and more versatile than ever before. They carry out a range of jobs a desktop machine would have done just a few years ago. But are these impressive machines more gadget than proper business tool? To find out, I have with me Bruno Paliuca, International Vice President at Pocket Computer. Bruno, welcome. What is probably the most logical question to start on? What is a pocket PC?
This is the Pocket PC, and this is a fully IBM compatible product. It weighs 1 pound. It runs 100 hours on 2 little AA batteries, and runs all the popular software that you would run on your desktop machine. So it's really a new machine as far as the portable market is concerned. Your question was, is it a gadget or is it a serious product? I think it's very serious because really we have redefined what portability is. If you look at today's portable computers, are they really portable or not? And I think they're not. They are transportable more than portable computers. None of them really delivers the true promise of portability, which we define as something very light, small, that you can carry everywhere, and that fundamentally runs a lot of time without changing or worrying about batteries. Whether it's 100 hours, it's 50 hours, that's all to be seen, but certainly is not the 5 or 6 hours that you see commonly on the market today.
We turn now to the computer channel itself, and it's not often that one has the chance, and it's been my privilege of launching not just a new program, but a complete new television channel. And that's what the computer channel does intend to be. In a moment, I'll be discussing how the channel will operate with its managing director, Julian Costley. But first, Christopher Slade takes a look at the new service, BSB's entry into the rapidly growing market for business broadcasting. Here's his report.
Test conductor has completed a status check of his board and reports go. Board is green. Liquid oxygen topping reports go. First stage igniters. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 2.
There's no doubt that satellite broadcasting is here to stay, and as it continues to develop, it's not only the domestic viewer who'll benefit from having a squareal to receive pictures from British satellite broadcasting. Now, DP and IT managers can opt to receive a new business-to-business service, the computer channel. It'll be transmitted, encoded on one of BSB's 5 channels.
I think the computer channel, if the quality of the information is high and the cost is beneficial to companies compared with existing training, I think computer channel stands a very large chance of achieving success in its aims.
If we're going to use television, and it's an excellent medium, it must use its graphics power. This will be essential. There have been several attempts using television in the communications industry, but they haven't really worked because the graphics haven't been dynamic, impressive, exciting, and this is what they must be. And secondly, you need an interactive component in the program.
What I'd expect to see in a service like the computer channel would be excellent presenters who are probably gurus in their field, something very specifically targeted to something that I wanted to see rather than a general program about IT. If I'm a DP manager, then I know most of that, or I think I know most of that, and the only thing that's really going to be attractive to me is something that I can quickly dip into and dip out again, thinking it's well worth my time being spent like that.
The channel aims to make training and communications in information technology simpler and more cost-efficient for thousands of data processing professionals in companies spread across the UK and Europe. It's a subscription service that could revolutionise the way in which information is delivered to the workplace.
It's going to completely change the way that IT managers gather their information. From now on, IT directors and managers, whether they're based in Manchester or whether they're based in Madrid, are going to be able to visit conferences, attend seminars, visit exhibitions without even leaving their office.
Well, obviously, it's going to radically change the way they receive information to make the vital decisions at the end of the day. And that may be something you've heard before, but this time round, we're going to pick out the meaningful facts out of the endless waffle you get from day to day.
65 degrees at Logan Airport. The skies are partly cloudy and the winds are out of the east. Let's check WEEI business from Wall Street now.
In the United States, the value of using satellite communications for training in a business environment has been proven. There are more than 20 subscription channels dealing with training for lawyers, bankers, hospital staff, and even car salesmen. For the financial community too, this new application of technology is now a part of everyday working life. The total output of these channels is greater than all the hours of the UK's 4 channels put together, and one of those American channels is for IT training.
Intel Corporation introduces a new integrated technology which we call DVI.
The computer professional today faces a bewildering array of paper information, a low-tech approach, if you like, to a very high-tech industry. You only have to look at these shelves that are laden with books, and to these publications, which are often very quickly out of date and don't necessarily give you key information quickly. In fact, print isn't always the best means of communicating specific technical data, perhaps describing a screen display or letting a bit of human personality shine through. And some managers find there are also problems with other current training and communications methods. Seminars, conferences and courses usually take people away from the workplace. They're often too general and too widely based for individual requirements and can be very expensive. We all like going to exhibitions, but who can spare the time? The ones that are easily accessible may not be appropriate, and the one you need to go to is inevitably the furthest away. Even if you do get there, there's no guarantee you'll be able to make the right contacts.
I think that frequently the presenters are not particularly good. I think the information that they provide is sometimes very orientated towards their own product, and even though they're not supposed to be there presenting their own product to provide it, you can hear that through what's going on. And sometimes they lack credibility. There's a veneer where you can ask a question and they patently don't really know the answer. What they actually have is a script.
Often these seminars are run on a one-off basis, and if you send somebody onto one of those seminars, it's difficult to get the information disseminated amongst other people who maybe ought to go on that course.
I work some 400 or so yards from the Barbican, and even that is a major distance to travel to some seminar or some show exhibition where I know there may be one or two things there that I want to see, but it'll probably take me 2 hours to get there and back in the end by the time I've registered and everything else.
Yet despite the problems of management training, its need has never been greater, according to the British Computer Society.
I suppose the whole point about IT managers is that at one time we were worried about the technology per se, but now we're much more concerned with the management of people, you know, that magic word management all the time, and the use of applications, getting those actually running in a good timescale.
The need for a channel to service the IT world is powerfully supported by extensive independent research. This found that conferences were rarely independent, being more often promotional presentations from manufacturers and suppliers. Conferences were often expensive, many being held in London and requiring overnight stays. Some are booked up long in advance, and many don't include up-to-date information because they're planned months before they take place. In addition, managers find it inconvenient if they only need to see a couple of sessions from a 2 or 3 day seminar, especially if these are on different days. The problems highlighted by their research needed to be solved if the computer channel was to be a success. Only in this way could those behind the proposed channel hope to satisfy the demands of the industry they would serve. They isolated 5 main objectives, which needed to be achieved at economical cost if the market was to be satisfied. The programmes had to be presented by recognised experts from within the computer industry. They had to be delivered direct into offices and training centres. They must be interactive to encourage questions. The programmes must be up to date, and the output should be truly international. But the research also highlighted some concerns about the role television can play. Sceptics said that television would never replace attending a conference, that being at the right seminar is more important than any travel cost saving, and that television is simply too trivial.
It's true. Television is normally associated with low-value information in a domestic environment and at next to no cost. VDUs, however, are associated with high-value information in an office environment and usually at extremely high cost. The difference between the two is just our attitudes, and I think those attitudes are changing. It wasn't very long ago, for example, that videotape was novel in companies. Now it's a standard part of every company's training.
So why not just send videotapes then?
Well, really, because the key to effective training is two-way communication, and videotape, like print, is a one-way communication. Our programs are going to be two-way because they're going to offer the viewers, wherever they are around Europe, to be able to communicate back to the experts in the studio and ask questions to clarify the points, just like good training.
But surely that's not like being at a seminar at all.
Well, no, it isn't. Many people like going to seminars to be seen, to hand their business cards round, to collar the speaker at coffee times. But those people who do that are not really our market. We're really after the IT professionals who don't have the time or the money to waste leaving the office.
So how's this going to save money?
Because the way we're charging for the service is to charge the equivalent of a delegate place at a conference. But because it's broadcast directly to a customer's offices, everybody who needs to know or will benefit from the information of that office will be able to see it at the same time. But the point of the computer channel isn't just about saving time and money. What we're really doing is creating a European forum for the computer industry. What that actually means is that many of the ideas that we've thought up so far are probably not the best ideas we're going to see. Those best ideas will probably come from our own market.
The single European market provides a major opportunity for UK-based businesses. These are exciting times for the IT market, following the deregulation of satellite communications and the standardization of technology throughout Europe. This friendlier regulatory environment, together with new high-powered satellites and their associated low-cost receivers, all enhance the potential for a truly European computer training and information service. But what will the rest of Europe make of the new channel being firmly based in Britain?
Over the last decade, more than ever before, I think the English language has been accepted as the de facto standard in at least our industry, in the computer industry. And most people will at least have a sort of passive knowledge of English and would be able to follow and understand part of it. Some countries like France is one where you might have some difficulty, Spain and the Latin countries like Italy or even further down, then the technology is there, and why not use the secondary channel with an online live translation.
With Computer Channel, there's a major geographic plus, being able to beam programs directly into Europe. In a way, the UK is no longer an island, and therefore we have to look to Europe, where a majority of good issues are really evolving, and we have to cover those in an authoritative way. Plus the fact that a lot of news is breaking from Japan and the US, and we'll try and cover that. The basic programming, though, will split into two parts. A conventional weekly program, but looking at news, views and reviews, news analysis of particular products launched that week, views from consultants and industry experts to add value to meaningful comment on those particular products, the reviews of those products as one might expect. But interestingly, we've also split up the programming into a management development series where viewers can really put 2, 3 or 4 programs together to be able to look at a common subject area like electronic data interchange or computer-aided systems engineering or networking, very complicated subjects which are too complicated to go into in any one program, but together in 3 or 4 digestible chunks can provide a pretty good explanation of how to manage those technologies.
Clearly, computer companies, perhaps above all other types of companies, are in the business of communication. And for a company like DEC, say, or IBM, who have very sophisticated methods already for reaching computer professionals, they're going to want to be able to see something very different opportunities before releasing news of new products, exclusive news of new products, onto a satellite-based professional information service. But I think it's certainly something that they will give quite serious consideration to.
If boardroom-level executives are to be the Computer Channel's audience, then expert advice and guidance will be critical. The channel's management have established strong links with the British Computer Society. If the channel is successful, it'll certainly increase awareness at boardroom level of the full potential of IT and DP.
The problem of increasing awareness in the boardroom requires top management to stop getting frightened about computers. I mean, in Britain, unfortunately, we really suffer from technofear. And the rest of Europe, and we're going into the single integrated market, is not so scared of computing. Now, what we're doing here with the Computing Channel is going to bridge across and help smooth some of those processes of change.
So what do you see as the role for satellite television in that?
I find the role of satellite television really very exciting because that's using today's technology to deliver the knowledge and applications that we need for tomorrow. And this is what industry wants, to see the training actually embedded into the working week.
Although it's still very early to judge the effects of satellite television on training and communications throughout Europe, some observers have a very positive vision of what could lie ahead. If that optimistic view proves to be correct, it'll be due to the confidence shown by British Satellite Broadcasting. It has a strong commitment to the development of high-quality television, not only in the areas of entertainment. But the question remains, will BSB play a vital role in the development of business and training skills in Britain and Europe?
That report from Christopher Slade. Well, I'm joined by Julian Costley, who's Managing Director of Computer Channels Services. Let me ask you, you said you hope to create a European forum. Now, in what way?
We have the licensed broadcast in Europe, and interestingly, the satellite actually has the strength for us to be able to use the BSB squirrels through local content to Europe as well.
And in fact, the regulatory authorities want you to, don't they? They are interested in you looking at with
shortly after, 1 year after they issued the SSO license, which was UK only, they then extended into Europe, and they're very keen for us to do that.
That's fascinating. Well, Clive, I mean, will you accept sponsorship, and what will be the editorial control of sponsored programmes?
Obviously, there will be a lot of editorial control over the main part of the programme. There will have to be constraints in terms of the sponsored programmes for them to be taken seriously as sponsored subjects. We will obviously define what each programme is, and people will be able to see which is a regular programme, which is a sponsored programme, and under what sort of rules they operate.
As one sees elsewhere. But you intended, it was actually an aspiration and an intention that you should be interactive. And you said even in the training area, interactive throughout. How are you going to do that, Julian?
The main purpose is to recreate that same sort of intimacy, that whether you're at a seminar or a conference, you can immediately collar the speaker and say, can you just go back over that point again, or I didn't understand it, or I have a particular problem related to my company. There'll be the interactivity in that sense. The other aspect too is that we are going to be, for the computer channel, very much adhering to the what's become a rather motto for BSB, which is the you watch, we listen.
Yes.
And an awful lot of what we're going to do, particularly over the next 2 or 3 months, is making sure that the initial program schedules that we've defined are exactly what our market want to see.
Well,
so it's interactive with regard to the program content.
A final point to Clive, if I can put you, one of the facts of the industry is it is competitive and there's confidentiality. Are you hoping to get information that others don't get?
Well, obviously there's a time advantage on any weekly programme. But then again, we won't be subject to any other constraints in terms of people using the channel as sort of PR vehicle unnecessarily. We'll operate under normal editorial controls. We're just dealing with a different medium.
Well, Julian Costley, thank you very much. Clive, very good luck with it. That ends this first transmission of the Computer Channel, BSB's satellite television service for Europe's IT industry. I hope you've enjoyed it. I have. And I hope it's given you something of a flavour of what the channel's going to offer you. Regular broadcasts, let me remind you, start on the 28th of June, and details of the programmes are published today in the first issue of the Computer Channel magazine. For now, from Clive Couldwell and myself, a very goodbye to you.